stick his
I'll go
Yeah,
home.
he does like the one cheesecake. Yeah, he does. You heard me a few years ago.
Hey man, I need to take care of some business with you. I need to take care of some business with you. You wanna wait till the closed session? How we gonna, yeah. I don't wanna be exchanging.
You're right.
4:36.
I don't want to overcharge you. We'll reprieve this week.
Yeah, that's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey, Betty.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
How's it?
What's you?
You didn't know that.
What meeting?
Don, is Chrissy trying to get a straw poll? If she actually doesn't want to go, or is she telling us we want?
You got something feeling real good. Got real jazz on.
Tonight?
I guess so, but just for Chris. He's got a couple legal things.
Oh, it is usually. Oh. Oh, I see.
I don't
So
know.
that would have helped out the other two last one.
Who's got the gavel?
Stayed in here. We just kept going.
I don't know what I am going to do
Hi, Bob.
with you.
Hey, Sherry, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Where'd Mike go?
Ready? Started.
Trying to avoid the telephone.
You are a mess. You know they come in all kinds of colors. You know that.
And I'm having some problems with this.
How are you? Good.
I'll leave that.
No, today it's warm in here. I know.
Network.
Yeah, you know what? I can't get in now. I was getting in all before.
Yeah.
To get in or no?
Are you? Wait a minute.
You ready?
I have an extra hard copy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Got it. It's working.
How you doing?
Okay, this is the pre-council meeting of the City of Joliet for Monday, May 20th, 2019 at 5:30 PM, chaired by Mayor Bob Odekirk.
We'll start with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilman Dickinson.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Hug. Absent. Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is a presentation. It's a presentation of conditions analysis and structural assessment of the old Joliet prison.
Good evening. Tonight we're going to have an interesting presentation. I'm sure everyone has had a chance to read the 147-page assessment study for our prison.
Right.
But fortunately tonight we'll have our presenters basically summarize it in about a 5 to 7 minute presentation. Before I introduce them, I'll give you a little bit of background, just kind of refresh the history of where we've been with the prison. I believe everyone probably remembers that in December of 2017, the city entered into the intergovernmental agreement with the state of Illinois and the prison. We wanted to acquire possession of the prison based on sort of a lease purchase approach. Obviously, we didn't want ownership, we didn't know what we were in for, and we felt that the 5-year time frame that existed would give the city enough time to evaluate and really identify what are the necessary improvements, what would we be getting if we were to venture into permanent ownership. In achieving that goal, the city very quickly started applying for grants, and we were fortunate in that we received a grant from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources to do an overall assessment of the prison. And that grant was awarded in 2018, July. And at that point, we went to an RFP process to identify a firm that could really look the place over, look at it through the eyes of the historical assets, look at it from the perspective of how the city could really utilize this as a cultural and historic asset, not only for our own residents, but for the state. We did hire the firm of Klein Hoffman, who will be doing the presentation. And the one thing I've got to tell you, and you could see the map of the 6 areas that they looked at. But when we approach this, we try to really identify what is it we're trying to achieve from the city perspective. What we really came up with is that this is a roadmap. This isn't something that's going to identify the next budget request of the city. $10 million is a lot of money. We get that. This is really something to identify the priorities. What are the 6 areas of priorities? What's the timing of those priorities? And how do we then go to the state? How do we go to foundations? How do we purpose some of the revenues that we're getting through the tours, the events, and other museum events? How do we start to tackle that? That's what this is all about. This isn't something that's the first step of a budget request. This is something that identifies that roadmap so we could slowly make progress in terms of enhancing the prison from the guest and the visitor experience. We've had a lot of discussions within the Prison Coalition and on staff. If there wasn't another cent spent on the capital side of things, we could still do tours. We could still have people access this building. We could still tout this as part of Joliet and really the nation's history. But this study is the roadmap for us to get to the point where we could start to garner outside resources to make some improvements. If we could get people into some of the buildings at some point, if we could start to utilize some of those buildings not just for access but for events, we're serving the public, we're serving the city, and we find a way to make additional revenue. So it's all sort of a cycle of, the more we do out here, we feel that more revenue can be generated, which means it goes right back into the prison. So with that, I'd like to introduce Terry McDonald and Tom Gable from Klein Hoffman. They'll run you through a very high-level presentation, and then certainly any questions council may have after that, either they will answer it or I'll answer it. So.
Hello, my name is Terry McDonald. I'm an associate principal at Klein Hoffman. I'm also a licensed structural engineer, and I led our Klein Hoffman team in the conditions analysis and structural assessment of the prison. I'm joined here by Tom Gable, who led our team in terms of evaluating the facade and the exterior elements of the prison. That includes the stone facades as well as the roofing. Our team was supplemented by another sub-consultant, McGuire Engineers, who helped us out with evaluating the electrical and lighting enhancements. And then Berglund Construction is a leading general contractor in restoration that helped us price out and budget some of the recommendations that we made in our report. As Steve mentioned, the purpose of our report was to get a better understanding of the general condition of the buildings included in our assessment, as well as providing short-term recommendations for stabilization and scope items in order to mitigate future deterioration and to prevent further decay, and also to allow for safer passageways through the buildings. The report, as it's intended to be not a full restoration or recommendations for a full restoration or rehabilitation. Like I said, it's mainly just to make sure it no longer continues to decay. Our assessment included the administration building, the 4-story building in the center, the east and west cell blocks on either side, the chapel to the west, the hospital to the east, and in the middle of the yard we have the stack, which is part of the power plant. We spent about 7 days with different crews evaluating the building. We started out with just a naked eye assessment of the exterior, looking at the facade, as well as using binoculars and things of that nature. We also walked in each floor very carefully, in each floor of the building structures, and we utilized a drone, which was a great tool for getting bird's eye views of really hard to reach areas, such as the smokestack, obviously, getting up high. We were able to get a great look at those, and you'll see the 70 pages of photos, quite a few of those are from the drone. It also helped us get to areas that we weren't really sure how stable they were in terms of walking on the roofs, and so it was kind of a tool for reconnaissance to go in there early with the drone. So that helped us out quite a bit. And so we had a lot of good data, a lot of good information that we documented and photographed. So I guess in general, as a result of our report, we found that there is substantial deterioration, and it's mainly due to excessive water entering the building. So that happened through broken windows from vandalism, deteriorated roofing, roofing past its useful life, as well as issues, deterioration just in the walls in general. So water coming in there over and over got to a point where each building does have some issues that need to be addressed, and some areas were made access difficult. But our recommendations, in order to prioritize this, we set up in 3 categories: the immediate, 1 to 3 year, and 3 to 5 year recommendations. And within the immediate, we had a two-tiered approach, so level 1 immediate and level 2 immediate. Now, the level 1 immediate are things that we felt that needed to be done right away. And really, it was mainly cordoning off areas or restricting access to certain areas. So, for example, the smokestack had severe deterioration up the top. We recommended putting perimeter fencing at the base to just prevent people from getting too close to that in case there was a falling hazard. Level 2 immediate were areas that we felt that need to be addressed sooner than later, such as putting plexiglass in the window to prevent water from getting in, as well as temp roofing to stop some of that excessive water coming in, especially at the higher risk buildings. The other thing that the level 2 recommendations included were areas that were more desirable in terms of tours. So getting someone in, for example, through the front door of the administrative building, down that main corridor into the yard. That was asked of us to take a look at that. And so we had recommendations for bracing and shoring to allow that to happen safely. And so that was part of the level 2 meeting. Now the next 2 categories, the 1 and 3 and 3 to 5 years, were kind of a mix of bracing and shoring and more permanent roofing solutions. And we tried to space it out where it made sense. We tried to shift the things, the scope items that we felt were more pressing. If you waited too long, the deterioration would accelerate. And the ones that we felt that could wait a little bit longer, we shifted into the 3 to 5 year category. So we thought through these scope items very carefully, and feel like the layout and the timeline makes sense. So I guess in closing, on behalf of Klein Hoffman, we were thrilled to be a part of this assessment. We get to work on quite a few Chicagoland historic buildings, and I have to say, just walking through that facility, it's very special, and looking forward to see how it develops from there on. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, pass it to the city manager to discuss tomorrow night's action items.
All right, I'll run through the agenda for tomorrow. There are a number of proclamations. The Economic Development, Finance, Prison, and Public Service Council committees will provide the reports. Now, there are 4 items on the consent agenda: approval of minutes, invoices paid, position vacancies, and accept receipt of the conditions analysis that we just heard about for the old Joliet prison. License and permit applications. There's 1 liquor license matter on the agenda. This is actually a culmination of the separation of liquor licenses for the entire site. I actually had discussions with the operators of this site when we extended the annexation agreement several years ago. Just to kind of boil it down to something very simple, if a new food and beverage operator takes over a portion of the entire premises, who would conduct what they call the pour? The new license is for the dirt track. Previously, the licensing was for the entire premises, inclusive of the track. There is actually a contingent from the Speedway here, and then I just invite the liquor commissioner up to discuss.
Council Number 251-19. A public hearing was held on 4/24/19 at 9:15 a.m. for a request of transfer Class K license. The applicant is Top Notch Events LLC, owner Sherry Heckenstead. DBA The Dirt Oval at Route 66 Raceway, located at 500 Speedway Boulevard. No persons appeared in opposition at the hearing. There are no outstanding monies owed to the city. The building department, fire, and police have no issues with the issuance of the license. Based on the facts and other facts of the hearing, the Liquor Commission is recommending approval of the liquor license. Any questions?
Any questions?
I have none.
Thank you.
Okay, in our public hearings, there's one public hearing regarding the annexation of 52.1 acres located at 620 Sandal Place and 800 Richard Street, classification to I-1 Light Industrial, and approval of an annexation agreement. PT Faro is requesting annexation to continue and expand their clean construction, demolition, debris, and clean soil fill operations within the city. PT Faro also has a lease agreement with Bomberic Flagstone to continue the flagstone quarrying, and you can see the flagstone quarrying from I-80 if you're heading down. That's the site we're talking about. Will County will continue to monitor the construction, demolition, debris, and clean soil fill operations, and this is also EPA permitted. Under ordinances, Council Memo 254-19, ordinance amending Chapter 8, Buildings, Construction, Property Maintenance, Article 1, Administration, systematic inspection of rental housing. Land use discussed this at our last council meeting. This ordinance is a rewrite of the existing rental inspection ordinance after receiving input from a number of different groups. A couple of the quick things: an increase in the fees and incentives for compliance, so the owners of the properties that consume fewer city services will pay less than the property owners of the non-compliant properties.
Mayor, I
Yes.
just want to comment on this. We did meet at land use on this particular issue. It's been in the works for many years. And right now, this is just what I would call a Band-Aid fix until, at the end of the meeting, we did ask for 3 more inspectors and possibly a secretary, because we really want to get on here single-family rentals, especially in lieu of everything that's been happening lately with these absentee landlords and their problem properties with shooters and drugs. So for right now, this is just a Band-Aid fix, but we're going to continue to work on the single-family housing.
Yeah, I would agree about the more inspectors. It's a constant complaint. People who care about the neighborhoods that are calling in, but don't feel they're getting the service from the city that they should be.
Thank you.
Council Memo 255-19, an ordinance approving vacation of a combined 30-foot by 125-foot access and public utility and drainage easement on lots 11 and 12 in Stone City Commercial Park, Unit 2. The petitioner received special use permit on November 20th of 2018 for construction of a truck wash facility. This request is to vacate the easement between the 2 lots to construct the building. Public Works and Utilities have no objection, and the other utilities have not reported any objections either. Council Memo 256-19, ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a truck trailer sales as an accessory use to the existing trucking facility located at 2050 South Chicago Street. This is a request from Cadence to include truck and trailer sales at their pit stop location to sell their own used semi-trucks and trailers that they have removed from service. It will be an accessory use. No one appeared at the zoning board hearing to object, and the zoning board recommended passage 6-0. Next, Council Memo 257-19, ordinance approving a special use permit for an automotive repair shop located at 509 East Washington Street. Excuse me. The original special use for this property restricted automotive repair work to vehicles that the former business intended to sell. This would allow the automotive repair shop to service any vehicles, not just those that the former business intended to sell. This property does have a history of automotive use dating back several decades, and the owner is present if there are any questions that we cannot answer.
Have none.
So this will be on tonight, or excuse me, tomorrow at 6:30 for a vote. Council Memo 258-19, ordinance approving a special use permit to allow the installation of an electric security fence as an accessory use for the existing business located at 3201 Center Point Way, Unit A. The city recently passed an ordinance allowing for electric security fencing, which meets certain conditions. This is in the intermodal, specifically XPO Logistics. Council Memo 259-19, ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a truck carting express hauling facility that includes accessory truck repair and wash located at 3000 Shanahan Road. This is the Keystone property at about the intersection of Route 6 and Hobart. This is an unknown user. The proposed parking area would not be utilized by over-the-road drivers or other drivers not associated with the future logistics facility, and there will be no drivers sleeping on the site. Only tractors and trailers that are company-owned would be repaired, maintained, and washed at the proposed facility. No one appeared in opposition at the April Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a truck and travel fueling center within an I-2 district located at 3100 Shanahan Road. Again, this is the Keystone property at about the intersection of 6 and Hobart. This is again another unknown user. The developer would like to build a 22,100 square foot spec building with accessory uses such as fast food and drive-through and a fueling center. Council Memo 261-19, ordinance amending the 2019 annual budget for the temporary Chicago Street parking lot improvements. At the last council meeting, we awarded the bid for paving, and so this ordinance is to amend the budget for that purpose.
Marty, can I ask a question?
Sure.
For 25719, is this the same owner that had it before?
Are they still here?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's here.
Are you the same, excuse me, sir? Are you the same owner that had the
Just step
mechanic
forward,
shop?
What is that, sir? Go
Are
ahead.
are you the same owner that had the mechanic shop before? Totally different owner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that owner have anything to do with it anymore?
I have no idea. He's never been, since when I got over there, I got everything new. I don't know the old one. I know the landlord, but I'm the,
But this whole garage is on you though, right? This one's gonna be on you?
yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I understand your question, and they left in December.
Okay.
Under resolutions, Council Memo 263-19, resolution authorizing the transfer of vacant surplus real estate at 212 Emery. This is actually in exchange for a permanent sewer easement across 210 Emery, which was unrecorded. Council Memo 264-19, resolution authorizing execution of an IGA with the Joliet Park District for the Taste of Joliet. This is essentially the same IGA as last year, with the city exchanging police services for sponsorship recognition. Council Memo 265-19, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement for the lease of a city-owned parcel at the southeast corner of 55 and Caton Farm Road for farming. So this is, again, a city-owned parcel which is just under 18 acres, and it was recently discovered that the previous person farming the land was not paying rent, and when approached about paying rent for farming the land, said he was not interested. So this proposed lease will secure $1,152 in rent, or about 75 acres for the approximately 15.3 farmable acres. Council Memo 266-19, resolution accepting the Community Greening Grant Program of CN and America in Bloom to the City of Joliet. So the City of Joliet received a grant of $25,000 to plant trees and native species as part of entryway beautification. And just so you're familiar with this, next year then we will be hosting the American in Bloom team. So that was part of the grant. Council Memo 267-19, resolution appropriating motor fuel tax funds for the Washington Street over Hickory Creek Bridge Improvement Project. Council Memo 268-19, resolution accepting a temporary construction easement from the Diocese of Joliet for the Belmont Interceptor Replacement Project. And Council Memo 269-19, resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation regarding a Phase 1 study along 55 I-80 to 52. This IGA is closely linked to the Memorandum of Understanding with Cullinan, which was approved at the last meeting. IDOT already approved the language of the proposed IGA, and our staff agreed with the 63% being the local share of the project. Under bids and contracts, these were reviewed by Public Service Committee, who will report on any issues tomorrow. And that is all I have.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance pending or threatened litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon? Aye. Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Motion carried.